All right, do we have topics? Actually, let's do a new introduction because we haven't done one of those in a while.
Okay.
Because we're so good at these that I feel like we
I'm
need
like,
to.
I'm like,
We're gonna nail it.
I'm smiling,
Are-
waiting for Mark to start talking so I can
I know. Are
interject
you
over
guys
top
ready?
of
Are
him.
you guys ready? We've got this, right? Right?
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jeff.
Hey, everybody.
Nailed it.
Whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife? Mark?
I keep them separated. Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone. I'm like,
Wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart, but sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
yeah.
Go.
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?
Super good. Super good. All right, I'm Mike.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Jeff. And this is What Do We Know?
Boom.
Yeah.
That just happened, people.
Zing.
Okay.
We're going to ride this one out for years.
Oh, yes.
We're just going to cut and paste this to the beginning of every episode we ever do from now on.
So, anyways, I got a question for you guys.
Okay.
I got an answer.
Have you ever haggled before? Prices? Objects?
Oh.
Monetary? Anything? Like, have you done any haggling in the past?
Yes.
What kind of stuff have you haggled?
I'm a Craigslist junkie. So I buy and sell on Craigslist a lot.
And
And that's just part of the kind of culture of Craigslist, I think.
do you talk people down from the prices that they're asking all the time? Are you like, oh, you want 50? I'll give you 20, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, generally speaking, like, I think a lot of people who post stuff on Craigslist expect you to come in at a lower offer. So, I mean, if it's something that's like they're asking $10, then no, I'm
I'll
good with
give
paying-
you $8.50.
Right, exactly. So,
I'm asking
But-
for a penny. Can I lower the price?
but a lot of stuff, like me as a, husband and parent and homeowner, like you need a lot of bigger things, like, so I do sort of amateur woodworking type stuff. So semi recently, not that long ago, I bought a table saw off of Craigslist, and they were asking $100 for a Craftsman table saw. Well, I said I'll give you 80, and long story short, it comes back to it works out to $90, and boom. So I only saved $10, which is not a big deal, but when you're talking about many things you're buying on Craigslist, well,
So how did that
$10 is
haggling?
$10.
How'd that haggling go? Were you just like, I'll give you 80, and the guy was like, no, make it 95, and you're like, let's settle on 90, or was it like straight up, I'll give you 80, and he said 90, and he said okay.
generally speaking, if I had to say like an average of all the things I bought on Craigslist, if they're asking for 100 and I sort of go in, know that I'm willing to pay, 100, like worst case
I'm
scenario.
always
So,
willing to
okay.
pay 110, so I
Right.
see what I can get.
So, so here's the thing with buying a table saw. So I have a um, a compound miter saw in my garage already, and this may be mind-numbingly boring to some people, but it is a 10-inch sliding compound miter saw. So the blade is 10 inches in diameter. I knew
That's what she said.
I knew going in that I wanted a table saw that could also accommodate my 10-inch blade so that I didn't have to start buying different blades for the table saw that I did for my miter saw. So when I saw a 9-inch table saw go up on Craigslist for $100 or something like that, like I'd go over there and immediately start talking about how, well, I have a 10-inch miter saw. I'm not sure if I want to deal with a, 9-inch table saw. And I don't even know for 100% sure that my 10-inch blades will fit on here. Meanwhile, I know that there's plenty of clearance for a 10-inch blade to fit on there or whatever. But No, it's just part of like the thing that goes along with Craigslist.
Right.
And meanwhile, I've sold a lot of things on Craigslist that, people come in sort of the same way, knowing that if you're asking X amount, you're really willing to go down to X amount. So, you know, it's one of those sort of unspoken agreements that a lot of people on Craigslist don't expect you to pay what they're asking initially for your
Right.
items, you know.
I feel like Craigslist is similar to like garage sales, and if I were to say
Oh yeah.
if I haggle, it would probably be at garage sales because everybody expects you to haggle, and maybe same thing with Craigslist. But let's say at a, restaurant or a grocery store, I
Oh, I
don't
wish I could
really
haggle at
See,
restaurants. That'd
haggle.
be awesome.
that's where I was going with this thing. Is have you ever tried to haggle something that, like you? It's hard to know anymore what you're allowed to haggle and what you're not allowed to haggle. When you're dealing with like car dealerships, everybody knows, the car salesman. You gotta work your magic with them, work the game, don't fall into their trap. Like that can always come down. Yet then there's that car dealership in Grand Blanc that has the bottom line pricing. It's a no haggle dealership, and I'm just like,
Right.
you get
Yeah, don't
confused
ever
at.
buy.
Well, you get confused at like where you can haggle at and where you can't haggle at. And I decided to try the most ridiculous haggle scheme the other day to see what would happen. And I was curious if you guys had ever done something similar. Probably not in this exact case, but so I got called by Walden University is where I got my master's degree from. And they were trying to sell me on going back there for their doctorate in nursing practice program, their DNP program. Like, as an alumni, like, blah, 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 you should come back and get this thing. And what we're doing is for alumni, for the next 2 terms, we're giving a 35% tuition break to anybody who starts in the next 2 terms. So I'm talking to the guy for a while, like, is this throughout the entire program? Is it just for the first term? And no, it's through the entire program, all this random stuff. So when I went there in the past, I went for my master's program. The credit per credit hour at the time, I think it was like $330. My last 2 semesters, they randomly raised the price to $580. So they jumped the price over like 2/3 of the amount of tuition. And I was kind of stuck at that point and like forced into paying it because you can't really transfer out at that point. I just got to
Right.
suck it up, pay that extra tuition, and go. So I wrote the guy an email and I was trying to ask him afterwards. I said, what is the tuition guarantee rate for throughout this program? Like, are you going to arbitrarily raise the price of tuition in 2 semesters and the tuition price you're telling me now is going to be completely different? And so as I'm writing this email, I was like, I don't know if I really care if I want to go there. I don't even know if I'm really thinking about wanting to start another program or anything like that. What would I have to lose if I throw in there that, how about you give me a 50% tuition break instead of a 35% tuition break?
Right. Doesn't hurt to
And
ask.
that's what I figured.
Yeah.
Would you ever have thought you'd be able to haggle tuition at a university?
Well, probably. Although I have never done it.
Have you ever even thought about it?
I was gonna say I've never really thought about it,
I,
and now that you mention it, my wife is a teacher and taking master's classes right now, so it's actually a pretty good angle that we should try and
Well,
negotiate that.
so let me tell you from my experience, because this all happened yesterday, and I got a call back today. And no, they won't do that. However, like the thought process was there, and I wonder if any colleges would actually, because I never even thought about like, oh, I want to go to this school. That'd be great. You always look for scholarships and tuition reimbursement type things,
Grants.
and grants. But I've
Yeah.
never actually thought to go straight to the school and be like, hey, like if you want me there, would you be willing to like do this? And I wonder if any college does that for anything other than like financial aid or tuition assistance or anything like that. Or I wonder if you've ever tried to haggle in a place that you didn't really think you were ever supposed to and actually were successful, or even
That's
just
right.
tried. I don't even
super.
care if you're successful. Maybe you just tried and the person was like, what, like you can't do that here.
Well, for big ticket items like at certain stores, let's say you want to buy a refrigerator or a television set, those are places where you're actually are allowed to haggle, especially if you talk to a manager and say, "Oh, I really like this TV, but I'm worried that the price is going to be discounted pretty soon if you guys have a sale. If you give me like 20% off, I'll buy it right now." And they might be more willing to
See,
give you a special deal for
I
that.
would never have thought of doing that either, except at places like ABC Warehouse. Because ABC Warehouse is known to be one of those places you're supposed to do
Right.
that. But whereas
And
like Best Buy, I would never think about.
but Best Buy would definitely do that too. I
Really?
think. Yeah. Actually, ABC Warehouse, I kind of have a funny story about that. For those listening who don't know, ABC Warehouse is sort of a chain, like electronics store. I assume they're nationwide. Do we know that
I
for
think
sure?
so. I just don't know how big they are.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know how widespread they are, but I assume they're all over the place. Jeff, there's one in Washington.
I've not seen one out here, but
Not in
Oh.
Japan.
Maybe they're definitely not Japan wide. However, I believe they're across the U.S. Anyways, so when my wife and I were getting married, which wow, at this point is coming up on 7 years, or I think 7 years. Anyways, um, we instead of going with like a videographer to videotape the whole ceremony, we decided we were just going to buy like a really nice at the time like big like one of the built-in hard drive, video camera
Right.
type things, because you could literally either pay like $700 to hire like a videographer to do the ceremony, or you could buy your own video camera for 550, which at the time was pretty much top of the line, and have someone do it. And that's the route we decided to take.
and I mean, then
And
you can use it afterwards for like your children's births or your sex tapes. I mean, it's versatility.
whatever, yeah, whatever you choose to use it for, and which, by the way, I think we've only used it, maybe 5 times since then. But
You guys just didn't
um,
like the way you
it's
looked having sex with each other when you watched it back. Is that why you
it,
stopped?
it's kind of awkward. Yeah, kind of. The lighting is kind of an issue. Um, we're not exactly beach bodies, so there's that whole thing. But anyway, so when I went to ABC Warehouse to, not funny, Mark. Anyway, we went to, well, me personally, I went to ABC Warehouse to look at this specific brand of video camera. I'd already priced it out at several different places.
Hmm.
And if anyone listening has ever gone to ABC Warehouse, they know the salespeople like attack you. It's like if you throw like um,
Because they work on commission.
chum like in a pool of sharks. Like they just surround you, and it's like dog eat dog. They work on commission like crazy. So this really young guy comes up to me and asks me about what I'm looking for, and I kind of tell him, well, I've priced this and that and the other thing at all these different places. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think, because we all know the Flint area, I think like Circuit City might have still been around at that point. So I had several like big box sort of
Right.
electronic stores to price it at. And I told him what I was looking for, and he brought me over to the section with the video cameras and was showing me all these things. And I said, I can't remember what I asked about at this point. Maybe it was like the warranty on it or something. And he took me over to like this sort of kiosk thing on the wall with like there was a computer monitor, and he could type in all these things asking about the brands. And he literally typed in the brand that I was looking at and model, and it showed up on the screen. One of the columns was lowest selling price.
Oh, nice.
And I immediately saw that, and he told me what he needed to tell me, and I said, so is that what you can sell it to me for? Which, by the way, was many, many dollars less than any of the other places I saw
Right.
it.
Less than you would have
And
tried to haggle for as well.
right, like this was the bottom line that he was allowed to sell it for, and I said, I want it for that.
And he said,
And he
okay.
said, well,
But
we're not just supposed to sell it for that. And I said, but you can sell it for that. So if you're going to get my sale, you're going to sell it for that.
You
So
know,
I got this camera. In the end, it was $80 less than any other place I had looked at it for.
can you imagine, though, if it was the greatest business plan setup ever, where they have this column on there, but really they can still sell it 10% below that? They just show the customer kind of like, oh,
They
I'll just
just-
go type this in real quick. Oh, you weren't supposed to see that number.
And by the way, if that's what they were doing, like
It worked.
it totally worked on me because at the two big box chains by us in Flint, I already talked about Circuit City. Best Buy is the other one. It was $80 cheaper
So,
than
uh,
either of those two
according
places
to
had.
Mark, you
The
could have gone and
same
haggled at
brand,
Best.
same
You
model,
could have gone
everything.
and haggled at Best Buy, seeing if you could got a better
Maybe,
deal over
maybe
there.
I could have. Yeah, maybe.
Uh, my wife used to work at the reception desk at a hotel, and she said that basically hotels, like, they're not even allowed to let you leave without trying to get you to stay there. So if you come in and say like, "Oh, I want a place to stay. How much would it cost?" and they're like, "Oh, it's $17," and they're like, "Oh, that's too expensive," and I'm about to leave, she goes like, "Oh, well, do you have Visa?" It doesn't even matter which credit card. It's like, "Oh, you have a Visa? That's a 20%
Are
discount.
you
It's down to."
serious?
Yeah,
Well,
and like,
is
"Oh, you
that
have a like," because I mean, basically having an empty room is costs the place more money than having
right? And I
it
was going to say
filled
like
the
that's
amount.
sort of the reason like the Expedias and things exist. But was that, do you know for a fact what your wife is talking about? Was that like overseas or is that in America too?
Oh, in America, that was her. That was the store. The hotel's policy. Like basically anybody that comes in, they're not really supposed to leave without, you know, you giving a really good effort of giving massive discounts. Like, oh, it's still too
Oh,
expensive
good.
for you. You
So
got
yeah, that's
Visa and you have Mike's like ARP card, and you have like anything like.
nice. Good one, Mark.
I'm gonna walk in and be like,
Let's
excuse me.
joke. Let's joke about the old guy on the podcast. Very
Excuse,
funny.
excuse me, I would like a room. I'm sorry, sir, we're all booked. Well, okay, then I guess I'll leave. But no, sir, we can give you a discount. But you
Yeah.
said you're all booked. No, but discount. You
Done
have
and
to
done.
stay here. My
You
policy
know,
says so.
you guys are gonna feel really bad one of these days when I break my hip.
No, not really. But because then I'll just laugh at you and be like, "Oh, look at the irony that Mike didn't get his AARP card, which could help him with discounts at the hospital right now."
How dare you?
Meals on Wheels can come to your house, but I mean, maybe not.
Well, it is strange because like I don't have the option here, but like if because of the new technology with smartphones, like I hear like a lot of places, let's say even grocery stores, you get to the checkout menu or whatever checkout area, and you show them like it costs $7 for this chicken, like Tyson brand chicken at this store, they'll usually match it now.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's one of the best
Yep.
things that the big box stores originally would never match places like Amazon or whatnot because they were too big of a warehouse. They can do two things too much cheaper than we are. Like part of your appeal to go to a big box store and purchase something is that you get to walk out with the product as opposed to having to order it and wait for it in the mail. And then they realize that they're losing so much business to these online places. But okay,
Yep.
we'll price match them anyway, which is, I think it's great for
Well,
the
it
Well,
makes sense.
consumer.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say it makes so much sense because when you talk about a company that ships their goods to like an outlet center, or department store or something like that, and then it finds its way into the hands of the consumer who's walking around there. Well, when you cut out the cost of the shipping and stocking and salespeople on the floor, like it only makes sense, to give a discount to the customer who is buying online rather than in the department stores, which is why I think those are kind of going the way of the dodo here to
Well, I
some
wouldn't say
degree.
it's going away completely, but yeah, I think like what a lot of stores are finding out is, yeah, you might not make a profit on the electronics here, but then they're not shopping and getting groceries there as well.
Well, what needs to happen is you guys ever seen the movie Idiocracy?
Yeah,
So what needs to happen is a place like Costco just needs to take over, and there's just one in every city
and once
where you can go get everything you need and everything else you just deal with online.
you take the subway there.
Well, and hell, with the drone deliveries,
Sorry.
I gotta have
Right.
some drones start giving me stuff to my door. I actually have a thing out here in DC where I can order from Costco in the morning and have it at my house by the afternoon.
Right.
Well, and they have what is it, like Google Prime or Amazon Prime Now or something like that in major cities where you can order something off Amazon and it's literally like to your house within an hour.
Yeah, you have to be within so many miles of the distribution center, though, right?
Yeah.
I also heard that certain areas you could just go to the place and pick it up at the warehouse. Just like, I
That'd
don't
be
know.
that'd be kind of cool. I do know
Yeah,
that
like
Well,
you like instead of waiting at all, I'll just pick it up.
I know.
I feel like super ambitious people have been doing that for a long time. However, now it's just becoming more mainstream because this is kind of a funny story. But um, so I have sort of family roots in North Carolina, and my somewhere along the line, my dad had discovered this um, sort of like this cured sausage product that only is big in like coastal Carolina.
Cured
So
sausage.
yeah, and it is really good. Don't get me wrong. Um, However, many years ago, he discovered that if he placed his order specifically with the guy who delivers the massed quantities to the grocery store that he always bought it at, he would always get it for a discounted rate. So, long story short, for going on probably 25 years at this point, my dad has had the delivery guy's cell phone number. And when he knows he's going down to North Carolina, he'll call him a week in advance and say, "Hey, I
Wow.
want 20 pounds of this cured sausage that I can only buy down there." And he takes it home in, ice chest freezers or whatever on his way back home when
See,
he goes.
see, I don't think I've ever found a product like that that and I want to. I want to be like, because that's your dad's like one thing, like his thing. It's like he's
He
got it, like he
loves
loves it.
cured sausage.
He knows it. He's got his hookup now. Like it's gonna be a sad day for him when that like delivery guy can't do that anymore or whatever.
Well, dude just retired like 2 years ago.
Oh,
However, the dude was training hooked him up to my dad and said, "Here, this guy might call you at some point."
It's like the Simpsons episode, like your dad's putting his kids through college.
Dude, at the funeral, hot dogs, get your hot
And
dogs.
and by the way, my dad has passed that number on to me and my sister, and I have never
Okay.
actually called it because I just tell my dad when I know my dad's going down there, I say,
Call
"Give
him,
me
call him right
10 pounds
now.
of it."
Call him
But
right now and
my
just be like, hey, you the guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
the
need the
guy? You
hookup. I
the
need the hookup.
hookup?
Right. Well, my sister does that when she goes down there. She always calls him, and they literally like meet in the back end of the grocery store parking lot. Like it's such a goofy kind of cliche back alley meeting thing, you know. They
That's
unload sausage off the back of a box truck.
now. Do you think that they could haggle with him?
Well, they already get a discount because it's just like warehouse prices. You know, they don't have the grocery store markup. They just buy it off the back of the truck.
Just like buying lobsters from trucks.
It's such a weird thing.
Have you ever done it?
What? But buy a lobster?
Yeah,
No.
off the truck. I haven't either, and I've always wanted to because they used to sit up there and on Miller Road in one of those parking lots off of Miller Road. It was this big van that was like the seafood
Yeah,
van.
where did they get the lobster?
I
It's
have
not like
no
they just
idea.
catch it.
Probably
Like,
like
oh,
our,
Flint River.
they probably went to Red Lobster and stole them out of the tank. The ones that floated, they took them out of the tank.
Yeah. He worked at Kroger.
Yeah, I have no idea. And all I'm picturing, and I know this is completely wrong, because I'm sure they're on ice in like a cooler, but I'm literally
Right.
picturing like a trunk opening and having the trunk just look like an ice maker, just like filled with ice in the trunk itself, and just lobsters sitting in it. It's like,
Well, I have to say I've never purchased anything like that in Flint, but like in coastal cities, they have awesome places where if you like seafood, they literally have these places like I was talking about North Carolina where you go to this um, fish market and it's literally you walk in the front door, the whole inside of the place is like display case
mhm.
on ice of fish and stuff. And I've seen the back of this place. Like if you go out the back behind the counters,
It's to the ocean.
yeah, it's to a dock on the ocean where boats just unload their catches and they put it right in the display case.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't get any better than
we
that.
have the fish market in DC. I don't think it's
I don't
as
think you're on an ocean in
we're not
DC.
on an ocean, but
I'm not
we're on
sure.
water. We are
Not
on
sure about
water, and
that, but
we have a shipping channel that comes through. But it's and they got the fish market. I don't think you can get like all the fancy stuff. I'm not sure how many DC lobsters there are around this area, but there's lots of fishing stuff. So we have the big
well, if
fish
there's
market.
lobsters in Flint, there's probably DC
I don't think the
lobsters.
lobsters are
Yeah.
really from Flint, though.
They're probably Maine.
I mean,
I would bet that
and if
they
they
weren't.
well, if they were from Flint, they probably moved away by now because they couldn't find jobs. So I had to go find jobs somewhere.
Well, in Flint, like there's so many people with crabs, they probably graduate to lobster.
When they grow up, they become
Right.
lobsters.
Just it's just a guess. Maybe I'm wrong.
Remember, our crack horse can beat up your crack horse.
Yeah.
I used to sell that T-shirt all the time.
That's right.
Oh,
Sorry, that was off color. I
but
apologize.
true.
Got a
But
little rowdy.
Okay, so talking about really huge discounts, I was really surprised when I saw that Microsoft says that even pirated versions of Windows XP can be upgraded for free to Windows 10.
wait, what? I did not read this. I could easily go get myself a pirated version of XP so that I can
Yes.
get a free upgrade to Windows
Who
10.
who doesn't
Now,
have at least XP at this point though?
no, that's the point though. They're trying to. I think I understand Microsoft's strategy. The
Yeah,
strategy for this
I was
was
gonna say, I
mostly
get
is
it.
especially for China because China has a whole bunch of pirated versions of Windows XP, and there's really nothing that Microsoft can do about it now. But they're trying to get everyone to use the legal version because it's free of Windows 10, and then once they get a free version of Windows 10, they might be more likely to use the legal versions of their software. But I'm thinking that's very unlikely.
Oh, I don't think
Um,
so.
I think it,
We've done podcasts here where we've talked about Apple and their products and about how they kind of have a not necessarily a monopoly, but because it's so easy to go from one iPhone to the next because of iTunes and it's so restrictive as what you can transfer over. Like I think that's totally what they're going for is, get everybody familiar with Windows 10 and then it's just a simple step up to the next version where even when you're illegally using their product, they're making it so that you're still illegally using the first version of their product, but they're making it so you're more likely to pay for that next version, Windows
that's true.
11 or whatever.
Doesn't
see,
make it easier to know that you have a legitimate version. Like I think maybe even in China, you might be trying to buy a real version, but not knowing that you're buying a fake product.
so what I'm wondering is why wouldn't if they really wanted to be a sales thing, if they wait a
Yeah.
couple more years, XP's not going to run. XP already doesn't run a lot of the stuff that is
Right.
mainstream now. Give it a couple more years, you basically XP is going to kind of be an obsolete, useless operating system for
Right.
what's going on now, and you'd have to upgrade to something. So
However, I strongly believe that if they wait a couple of years, Apple might take them over.
no, the Macs are way too expensive, I
Yeah.
think.
And their operating system's not. Oh, anyways, here's my thing: is I think this is a brilliant strategy by Microsoft. Now I don't know about giving it for free for pirated copies, but I think what they're trying to do is basically kill the legacy issue that you have with Windows. Like you kill Internet Explorer, which that's what they're doing. They're killing out legacy with Windows 7, XP, 98, and everyone's basically starting with this new operating system, but nobody's going to pay like a whole lot of money to go on this new, untested operating system. But if you make it free and then make it so ubiquitous that everyone has it, so you almost are required to have it, I think that's sort of a really good strategy to have.
Right, and that's exactly what they're doing is exactly what you guys just poo-pooed is that Apple is gaining momentum as far as laptops and PCs go. And people are so disgusted by Windows 8 and just the general direction of Internet Explorer. I mean, they're doing away with that totally because it's such a piece of garbage. Windows 8 is absolutely horrible. I mean, we've talked about that on this podcast before.
No, do you know
Uh,
anything about Media Center? Is Media Center going to be
No, no.
included with Windows 10? Is it going to be a pay product again, like it is for Windows 8?
Maybe. I think a lot of the things like they're trying to do like everybody uses the Windows 10 OS, but maybe everything else is a la carte. Like I'm not sure. I
so,
think
I mean,
they're
everything we're talking about is how much of a piece of trash everything related with Windows is. They're
Right.
basically scrapping everything and trying to start over before they lose all their market share, is what's happening.
well, no, I think what they're trying to do is something that basically Apple is ignoring right now, is that they're trying to basically get smartphones and their operating system integrated completely under one OS, which
Yeah, because
I think
Apple
is a really
doesn't have
smart
that yet, huh?
strategy because, yeah, like pretty soon people are just going to be like, well, I don't want to deal with two different OSs. Like everything I have on my computer, I should have on my phone. And it
Apple
should
already
just be
has that. What are you talking
not
about?
not exactly. Like basically they're Windows is trying to make everything unified under one operating system. So basically, when you use your Xbox, you could look at use the same information on your PC. Like there, I think he's actually even trying to make it so like people who are on consoles can play the PC version under the same server. And then probably the same thing with games on the computer and on smartphones. I think basically they're trying to unify everything under one operating system. So basically, like sort of like iPhone, like for Apple, like once you're in Apple, you've got to use a lot of Apple products because that's how they work so well together. Well, I think Microsoft's doing a more uh, intense version of that.
I wonder what is going to happen with the tablets because I haven't been following this at all, but I know they have, Windows 8.1 and
Yeah.
then Windows 8.1 Lite. Is that what it's called? The one that runs on all the tablets or whatever, that everything's just like app based. And then Windows, the Windows Phone version is 8.1 something else or whatever because they're trying to keep them all. Whereas I think Apple is iOS is for the, iOS for the iPhones and stuff, but it's still a whole
Right.
different operating system that actually runs the computers. Where I know Microsoft is trying to get basically an operating system across the board. Yeah, yeah, you're right about that. I'm real.
Right, because well, it's because they see Apple's the whole like market model that they're going for. And I think Apple is heading in that direction as well. And essentially, like if you have iTunes and keep your devices all synced up, like your MacBook and your iPhone and all these different iPads and all these different devices are all intertwined. I think that's what Microsoft is trying to catch up to because Apple has cornered the market in that.
See, and I'm actually thinking that because you're thinking that Microsoft's biggest competitor is Apple, because that's what we tend to think with operating systems are like Apple, Microsoft, and like Unix. But I think it's actually they're probably going after Google with the smartphones and the tablets and the operating system. I think they're and the search bar because of the money that you can make through basically selling information. I think the biggest competitor with Microsoft is, you know, partly Apple, but also mostly Google.
Well, and if that's their idea, that seems like a bad idea to me, considering Apple makes more money than God at this point.
I think I think
Well,
Apple's gonna slow down at some point. That's
Well, they have to.
my
They can't
thought.
keep going, or they'll own every denomination of money
They'll
on the
have to
planet.
buy
It's like,
themselves if they try to own everything.
yeah,
well,
it's crazy.
and when smartphones, which is starting to get a lot of popularity in China, which uses I think the Android operating system, uh, becomes just like blows into the billions of people using it. That I think that's when you're going to see like
Why would China
like
not be able to use an iPhone though?
No, just the amount of people who could afford it because they're making a much cheaper Android phones in
Oh,
China, and
gotcha.
it's getting popularity that way. So you're gonna have instead of just like, oh, you got a couple million users in America, you're gonna have a couple billion users in China, and then you got their search engine information and all that other like all the other stuff that you get. That's where you're going to see the huge difference. And I think that's why Microsoft is trying to get this whole push for Microsoft 10,
When's it
especially
supposed to happen?
use this summer, I think.
I was gonna say, I think it's coming fairly soon.
I will upgrade probably as quickly as I possibly can to get off of Windows 8.
I know I'm on the mailing list, whatever the Microsoft mailing list is to keep you up to date on when 10 is coming out. Now, I think
I
we've
believe
talked
you can
about
sign
this
up for the
before.
mailing list at wdwkpodcast.com.
I'm definitely on that
Yeah.
mailing list for sure, because that has some awesome mail that comes into that. So if you want to be awesome too, you should definitely write mail to
Yes, right.
wkpodcast at gmail.com. That'd be awesome. But anyway, so I'm on this mailing list, and I'll keep you guys posted on what I hear about that. But I haven't had any new sort of information on that in a long time. All right, good talk.
I haven't kept up with technology, and so like with operating systems and stuff in a while that I haven't looked at anything that's going on with Microsoft lately, so I didn't have much to say. I don't know.
I'm so far gone with technology, it's ridiculous. Like when I was younger, and high school with you guys, like I totally dug that kind of stuff. Loved technology, loved learning about new everything. Computer languages, I learned 2 different computer languages in high school and learned about HTML and all this, that, and the other thing. And once I got out in the real world, it was like I never used any of that information ever. And here we're, 15 years later, where I've still never to this day really benefited from any of that.
But we have a podcast, which wouldn't be possible without.
Right. Well,
However,
HTML
I don't really contribute much to the programming side of this podcast.
That is very true. Get off your ass, Mike.
yeah.
Well, when we were doing just audio, come on, I learned some audio editing.
That's true. That's true. You did some good audio editing, but now that we're doing
Ooh.
video,
That's right. I don't know anything
learn
about
some video editing.
it. Not so much. Not so much.
Which program do you use for video editing?
I use mainly yeah, Mike uses none. Windows Live Movie Maker for most things. It's free.
It's free. It is free. See, and I used a couple of different ones, but I don't know. Maybe I think I'll probably get Adobe because I remember when we were in
I've been
college.
told the Adobe Premiere interface is so clunky. I've used Sony Vegas as well, and Sony Vegas has its pluses and minuses, in my opinion. You can do a lot more with Sony Vegas, that's for sure. However, one of the problems I run into with my games is the light levels are completely off, and Sony Vegas runs their light levels in a certain way, but there's supposed to be this fix that you can add to your clips to like balance them the right way so they're supposed to be. But the problem is it adds this level of brightness so your bright clips get brighter and then your darks are right. It's so confusing to me to deal with that stuff because some people use Sony Vegas and it's seamless and they do so much crazy stuff with it.
Really?
Windows Live is very limited, but if you don't have to do much crazy editing, you use Windows Live.
No, it was really weird because I actually liked the Apple Movie Maker much better than the Microsoft Movie Maker, and I think Apple does a really great job with their Movie Maker, but
It's only for Apple.
yeah, it's only for Apple. So like when you're using
What
a
a
PC.
shock.
Hey guys, it's Jeff. Don't forget, follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/WDWK Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/WDWK Podcast. Email us with your questions or comments, WDWKpodcast@gmail.com.
Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone. I'm like,
Wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart, but sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
Go.
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?